want to just let everybody know we are making this Rapid Reacts available as our Tuesday regular main show this week. Thanks for checking it out. If you enjoy and you like what you hear, please consider getting yourself a subscription because we're going to be doing this again. Rapid Reacts following the Nashville Music City Open coming up this coming weekend. Welcome inside another Rapid Reacts. We are live in the Multi-World Disc Golf Discord. It is Josh, it is Charlie, it is Sunday, April 14th. A little bit on the late side tonight, so thanks for hanging in with us. It is 10:50 p.m. at the start of this recording, and we are checking in following the Jonesboro Open. What a tournament. Another crazy finish on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. In MPO, Anthony Barela wins it by a stroke over Ezra Aderhold, Ben Callaway, and Calvin Heimberg. And over in FPO, Kristen Tattar blows everybody out and wins by 9 over Holland Hanley and 10 strokes over Evelina Salonen. Let's rock and roll, Josh. How in the hell did Anthony Barela win this tournament? I honestly could not believe what I watched down the final 9 holes of this tournament.
Yeah, it was a spicy one, that's for sure. How did Anthony Barela win? Let me sum it up for you here. Emily says this in the chat. For those of you who are listening on part of the main show, we do these shows live and we take questions in the Discord. It's a great time. Emily puts out here, final rounds were just a question of who could not fall apart the most. And boy, oh boy, did that feel like an accurate statement today. And it's so interesting because, there are times that we talk about the discussion of, did somebody win it or did somebody give it away? And it feels like you have to give Anthony Barela credit because of how many players it feels like should have won this and didn't. So in a way, Anthony Barela's resilience really does feel like a big win for him here.
Just a crazy finish, though. I mean, like at the end of round 2, Isaac and AB are tied. So at that point, Calvin's 1 shot back, Simon's 2 shots back, and they're tied with Simon's tied with Ben Callaway and Albert Tom. So obviously it's advantage AB at that point, given that he's tied for the lead and the way he's been playing so far. But he comes out and he's kind of icy. He's even par through 6 holes. Meanwhile, Ezra is 5 under through 6. Calvin is 3 under through 6. Isaac decided to not show up for today's round. He just took it off. And enjoyed a little, getting in some cardio while the other guys were on camera. So AB has 2 birdies through hole 12. He is even par through hole 12. Okay? He is, let me just say that again. It is hard to believe this, but he is even par through hole 12. And yet he wins the tournament.
What was his score through hole 12? I think I missed you.
I just cannot believe it. So, of course, he then goes absolutely berserk, goes on fire, birdies 13, gets a monster eagle on 14 with a huge putt from 60 feet, and then goes birdie on 15, 16, and 17. And at that point, Ben Callaway has fallen off, and we'll get back to him. And it's like him versus Calvin, basically, and who's going to make the island. AB throws first. He puts it on the island. He's in circle 2, maybe circle's edge. And then Calvin just throws one of the worst shots of the day and goes OB, and that's the tournament. AB doesn't even have to try to make the putt. He just lays up after being even through 12. I got to be honest, that's one of the craziest wins I've seen on tour in a long time.
Without a doubt. And the fact, I think there's a really good point here. Owl P. Jackson points out that this is also one of the best broadcast experiences where we got to watch the 7 guys that were in contention non-stop. And that's just how close it was, that you had to keep a close storyline on 7 different guys who were in the mix throughout all the way down through 18. I mean, there were, and Ben Callaway could have been at 25 under had he birdied hole 18. And so, I mean, it really was until, lead card comes down the stretch on 18 that it just became We actually got the finish. It was one that really kept you on the edge of your seat the entire time. The OB on 17 for Ben Calloway. Ezra Aderhold's forehand on the Eagle 5 or on the Eagle Bull par 5. It really was just way that it changed and the flows of the momentum were one that I just cannot remember happening in recent memory.
So by the midpoint of the round, I remember I pulled the leaderboard up and Calvin was in the lead. And I was like, he's probably gonna win this thing. It's gonna be this incredible narrative of him turning around a year later, redemption, gets another win at Jonesboro, silences the haters, and gets back on top despite not throwing forehand. Amazing story, right? And then I'm like literally looking at the leaderboard and he jumps down the leaderboard and it says double bogey and I yell out loud. I'm like, how is Calvin Heimberg taking double bogey on this course? And then Calvin still ends up having a chance and then he blows it. And Josh, I'm getting the feeling that anytime he is like in the contention or chasing, he just doesn't make the shots. He doesn't make the putts. It's always a mistake at the last minute. And he's so talented that he's still able to be up at the top all the time. But man, it's hard to watch him blow these shots and these moments over and over and over again and finish second over and over and over again.
So, Charlie, I think it gets worse when you think about on the broadcast, they pointed out Calvin Heimberg had played that hole, formerly hole 18, now hole 10. I don't remember the exact number. It was over 20. It was like low 20s, 20 times in his career. His worst score on that hole before today was par. And he had more birdies on that hole than he did pars. And he manages to take a double bogey by shanking it straight into the trees. I mean, it's the kind of, like, it's hard to, like, wrap your head around the kind of mistake that he made. You also combine that with the fact, and a couple other people point out today in here, is that, and I want to give credit here. It was Emily again. Shout out to Emily again. Emily points out that Calvin goes the hyzer shot and screws it up on 18 when Simon and Isaac both went up the gut and got the birdie. So there are multiple ways to play hole 18, and I think it's the pressure there that really gets to Ben and Calvin. But I mean, sticking that island is something that Calvin really should be able to do every single week.
Well, and we know that he can. He obviously can execute that shot in his sleep. And, like, it's just kind of shocks me. To be fair, he bogeyed it in round 2, and he parred it in round 1. So it was a hole that maybe wasn't really, like, suited to the style of shot that he wants to throw. I mean, that's, the thing is, like, that's an AB type hole, right? Because AB can just absolutely jam a shot on a super hard hyzer as hard as he can and just let it fall in. And, that's not necessarily the shot shape that Calvin wants to go for. But, man, it's just tough. And I think if you tuned in, right, when Calvin takes a double bogey, Josh, that's when Ben Calloway all of a sudden is your leader.
Yes.
And he had an awesome round. He had an awesome tournament. We haven't really said his name too much so far this year. He's been one of those guys who, like, has been solid. He's solid. He had he was second at Jonesboro last year, so obviously he must feel like pretty confident on this course. He's had multiple top 10 finishes on tour, dating back to just looking at last year. He was 8th at European Open. He was 7th at MVP. He has been solid, and not much doing this year, but did finish 11th at Texas State's, and then he's right there. But can you really blame the guy for not being able to clutch up at the end? He's never been in this spot. I don't think he's ever been in this spot once. If I recall correctly, he was not really in the conversation to win last year at Jonesboro. And, he goes birdie, 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 12, 13, 14. He's hanging in there. He saves the par after going out of bounds on 17. So he's, like, still alive, and then just missed the shot on 18. 18 delivered the drama.
18 did deliver the drama. And I think I think that, like, like you mentioned, Ben Callaway, not only has he not been in this spot, but in like the mid 1020s, you don't really expect a guy like Ben Callaway. I mean, this would have been a really miraculous story if he does win it. And but I don't think, if it's funny because if you looked at the end of scores of round 2 and look at the end of the scores of round 3, you would see AB and Ben Callaway tied going into the round, or AB and Isaac Robinson, excuse me, with Ben Callaway a couple strokes back, Isaac Robinson falling off, and Anthony Barela there at the top, and you'd think, oh, okay, like Anthony Barela got the win, and it just doesn't convey the kind of round that we had, and as well the kind of challenge that Ben Callaway was able to put forward, as well as all the other guys around him, right, Ezra and Calvin included.
And it's so easy to, start thinking about second guessing, decision making. Like Nate Doss couldn't even decide on the broadcast whether he thought Ben should have gone for it on 14 or not gone for it when he had the chance to run the putt. He said you can't blame him for going for it, and then he was questioning it the rest of the broadcast. What are you going to do? Like, the guy put himself in a position to win. If he had birdied on 17, like if he'd gone birdie par on 17 and 18, he wins. If he goes par, it's probably a playoff, although honestly, I think AB jams that putt 99 times out of 100. He is absolutely locked in right now when it seems to matter the most on the putting green. And so I don't know. You can rewrite all these stories about what he should have done differently, but the guy played great. He's in a position he's never been in. The cameras are right in his face. He was out of position on 17 and he still went for it. He took a beautiful line. Did you see this, Josh? He rides it up to flat, gets it drifting right, and it just comes in a little too hot, skips on the downslope on the too close to the basket and goes OB. Mm-hmm. And man, it's just like, what could have been? Yep. If that hits the ground maybe even 5 feet earlier, he taps in for birdie.
Yep.
And maybe we're celebrating a Ben Callaway Elite Series win for the first time in his career.
Well, and the thing that you have to, like you talked about the what ifs, it also goes back to like, he probably shouldn't have hit that tree, right? Like that, swing that wider.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
It's so hard because you look at his stats again, 86% from C1X, 12 of 14, but his 2 missed C1X putts were inside of 20 feet. And so it's brutal because you're like, man, you just see all of these opportunities that he had, and it feels like he didn't execute. And I think that's why it's so much harder to look at this storyline here of Ben, is because it was cases over and over and over, as it just felt like things that were easily executable that seemed to derail his round the most. Pressure, right? That's what pressure is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We saw pressure play out on everybody today.
Yeah.
And it's funny in a way, like AB had played so bad that he was no longer under pressure. And then all of a sudden, like, it was miraculously back in it. And all he had to do was throw a mega power hyzer. It's like, okay, I can do that. And everybody else fell apart around him. And so, like, he played bad early. Ezra can't putt when it counts. He goes 2 for 9 from circle 2 today. Calvin blows it on the last hole. Ben Callaway couldn't stand up to the pressure of all those guys chasing him. Simon got hot too late and bogeyed in the midst. I mean, look at the story. It was just a wild tournament. How about how would Gannon Burr have won this tournament if his putts didn't spit out the whole round?
Well, he went 0 for 6. I can't remember exactly how many spit outs he has, but I think one was a circle 1 putt and a handful of circle 2 putts. So like, I don't know, probably not. I think he's a little bit too far behind.
Somebody in the chat, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was. I would give them credit otherwise. Earlier today, was like, Prodigy gets revenge on Gannon Burr.
I saw that too. That was great.
That was so good.
This is, man, I'm so mad that we have to talk about spit outs again because there were a lot of them,
Look,
including like Ben Calloway's had a pretty bad
oh
spit out.
man.
I don't know. Like,
Here's what I'll
go ahead.
say. Here's what I'll say. Two things can be true. It can be true that Gannon Burr putts with a style that invites spit outs at a higher frequency than many other players. It can also be true that the Prodigy baskets are trash. I think both things are true. There were a number of putts that he didn't necessarily deserve to have go in, but there were also ones that were just like the chains aren't like catchy enough. I don't know how else to describe it. The discs would just go in, hit the pole, and shoot straight back out.
Yeah. Looks like chat's saying
they were veterans.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I was deluded by the chat. Well, no wonder they were so awful because these are the worst baskets on tour. They are horrendous.
Oh man, it really, yeah, it's not great. It is not great. They just got to standardize something.
Thank you, chat, for catching me on that. But it makes more sense about how bad they were. Because Prodigy has those weird, like, meshy ones. They have their own issues, but those DD veterans are just garbo. Okay, so let's see. There's a bunch of other things I want to get to here. Anthony Barela becomes the first player since Paul Macbeth did it in 2019 to win 3 of the first 5 Elite Series events of the season. And by the end of the round, Josh, we started to hear some comps. Nate and Nate on the broadcast were starting to talk about how Barela had that energy that you start to think about comparing him to what we saw from past greats like Macbeth, Wysocki, Climo, Schultz, and saying that, it takes time to figure it out. But when you figure it out, suddenly these guys became unstoppable. And certainly I will admit, it feels like that right now with AB. I said it in the chat earlier this weekend. He is an auto podium include on most courses right now. And this is probably the last time I'm going to leave him off for a while. Because I left him off this weekend thinking like he hasn't played well here in the past. And no, he's just that dude right now. And so I wanted to find out, Josh, is it in fact the case that Barela is going through a Macbeth-like, career trajectory, and then we've kind of just like maybe been a little too early in pushing him to be as good as his talent would allow him to be? And so you looked it up.
I did.
What are the facts?
Well, I think we need to pump the brakes a little bit. And listen, I hear that it's a different era. It's a different era of competitiveness, but still, let me give you some context. Anthony Barela, by my calculations of when he won U.S. amateurs, is currently 24 years old. Paul was 24. Paul is currently 33, so he was 24 back in 2015. In 2015, Mr. Paul Macbeth won 18 of the 24 tournaments that he entered, including his 4th world championship, and his worst finish that season was the 3rd at Maple Hill, and he did not miss the podium in 2015. That season still isn't as impressive as his 2019 season, but that 2019 season breaks every record. Like it's just impossible to look past that season, unfortunately. So I decided let's take a look at Ricky as well, right? Like Ricky Wysocki.
Yeah, because I mean Macbeth's a goat,
sure,
so like
Macbeth.
Maybe we shouldn't compare him to the GOAT.
Well, Ricky was 24 in the year of 2018. 2018, Ricky was already a 2-time world champion and had won 3 Elite Series. Both of those things happened with Paul in the field. And so, listen, are we putting Anthony Barela up against, the 2 players that were most dominant of their era in the pre-COVID era, really? Yes, absolutely. And is Anthony Barela like experiencing a really incredible season? Yes, we're going to get to that. But I don't know if it's necessarily this age thing that the storylines are making it out to be. Remember, Anthony Barela was one of like the few players to win U.S. amateurs and AM World, and he won Junior Worlds. Did he win AM Worlds as well?
I don't know.
I don't remember. I know he won Junior Worlds and he won U.S. AMs. And so like Anthony Barela has been playing disc golf for a long time, and there have been things that he's needed to figure out, and it really does feel like this season he has figured it out.
Yeah, I mean, it so far 100%. And I think even moving forward, right? He's at some point he's inevitably going to slump a little bit, right? The chat is correcting you a little bit here, Josh. Just that he wasn't fully on tour until he was 22, because he used to play like stuff in his area, but wasn't like necessarily going on full-time tour. And you know, some of these guys were doing that at an earlier age. But I also want to, Mike points out earlier, how fast someone does it matters. But I think there, and that's referring to the Nates, are talking about the ceiling. I wouldn't dismiss the statements based on timelines. I don't think the point is to dismiss the statement, because I think it's obvious that we have to look at this. I mean, this is the most dominant start to a season that we've seen in MPO since it maybe even longer than 2019. Because if we go back to 2019 and we think about it, was just a different time in the sport. It was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
There were like fewer tournaments. Maybe there's a case to be made that, I mean, Macbeth had an amazing season. I don't want to take anything away from it, but it's just different now. And the concentration of great players at tournaments throughout the beginning of the season like this, I feel like is not like it was in 2019. And so it feels like we're seeing an amazing start to the season. So obviously people are going to start talking about just how good can he be. I don't think there's any question that he has the skills to be the next just dominant force on tour.
Yeah.
I think it's clear. I think it's totally clear, because the question before was that maybe he was never going to be able to putt, but he has put those concerns to bed completely for me. Because it's not even the pressure putting is just as good, if not better, than what we've seen from him just kind of on a statistical basis.
Absolutely. And here's the other thing that's important to consider as well, right? And the reason I brought up the Anthony Barela and like the junior and amateur champion is that Anthony Barela feels it feels in a sense like you're like the prodigal son returning home, right? That everyone expected Anthony Barela to be what Gannon Burr is. You know, the guy who won an open major while he was still a high school student. That's what Anthony Barela was supposed to be. And yes, I know he was in college, but he didn't get those wins. And then he graduates college and he gets so close so many times. And then he breaks out, wins the first event of the season. And he said in his post-round interview today that everything feels different, right? It's just, he has been a new player since chess.com, and that has absolutely been the case. So, Charlie, I've got a couple stats for Anthony Barela's season this season versus last season. You ready for him?
I'm glad, because I was starting to wonder like where his average has been at this year.
Yeah, you're going to love this. His average tournament rating this season has a 1057 with a worst rating of 1054 for event rating. Last season, his best tournament event or best event average was a 1052, and only twice did he break the 1050 mark. Once at Music City, once at Des Moines. Every other event last season is rated lower than his 1054 Waco performance this season. In the first 5 events this season, he has more than doubled his earnings from all DGPT elite events last season. He's made $35,555 this season on DGPT elite events only. This is not including majors. His second place at Worlds gave him an extra 20 grand and some other things, and other events gave him lots of money. But in the 14 elite events, $16,500.
Holy smokes. I mean, that's just, it's unreal, honestly.
Unrecognizable.
And you know, he'd had some top tens last year, right? I mean, he was clearly improving throughout 2022 and 2023. And then, he has the horrendous European Open disaster. And then he goes to Worlds, shoots 1059 rated. And then, is like top 10ing a bunch at the end of the season last year. And then comes out and, of course, has been spectacular to begin the season. I mean, even if he doesn't win again, he's going to be a player of the year candidate.
Yes.
Right?
I think you probably need a major.
There was one guy last year with 3 wins.
Uh-huh.
Gannon. That was it. We're 5 events in and we already have one. That is wild.
Yeah. All right, Charlie. I've got a little game for you. We have a couple players who have set what I kind of think of as like the benchmarks in my brain for really like excellent seasons in their own ways. They're excellent in different ways. I want you to give me, and we're gonna do this kind of like the overreactions show. I'm gonna give a statement of what Anthony Barela is going to do this season compared to previous players, and I want you to give me a 1 to 5 spice level about how spicy you think it is, and if Anthony Barela is gonna pull this off. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Number 1. Anthony Barela will get at least 5 wins on tour. Ricky Wysocki, if you include the Pro Tour Championships, did that in 2022.
I'm giving you a spice level or my prediction?
Yeah, spice prediction, however you want. How likely do you think it is that this happens?
I'd say it's 50-50.
That feels about right. Like, I don't think anyone would be shocked if he got 2 more wins.
Spice level, like 2 or 3 chilies out of 5.
Yeah. Okay. Next, Anthony Barela wins at least 2 majors this season. A la Isaac Robinson last season.
That's a 4 chili on the spice factor. I mean, let's think about the events. EO is Beast and Tampere, right? They're doubling up because they're getting ready for Worlds.
Correct.
We've got exclusive Northwood Black for Champions Cup. We have the Virginia Worlds, and we have Winthrop.
Yep.
I love his chances at the European Open.
Mm-hmm.
I like his chances at USDGC. I am uncertain about how he doesn't he love Northwood Black? I just don't know how. I am unsure if I trust that he's going to be the same guy in the woods. Is that fair? I'm not sure because he's played some courses already this season where they've been like at least fairly wooded and he's played really good. But in full-on thick woods, can he rock and roll? I mean, that's the challenge for him to pass that test. I mean, people are pointing out that he is throwing putters amazing right now, and he's been clearly disking down on a lot of these kinds of shots, even compared to last season. And we have seen him be in total control of his shot making. I mean, watching him win in Houston at Texas State's, like a lot of those shots were basically wooded hole shots, and he was the most impressive player there easily. So I don't know. I like his chances at every major, but to win 2, it's a 4 chilies. I would put it at about a 15% chance.
Okay. He averages 4th place at Elite Series and Majors, which is what Calvin did last season.
Average is 4th. That's what Calvin did last year?
What Calvin did last year.
Well, he's averaging what? He's probably averaging about 2nd right now.
He is averaging
3 chilies, 35% chance. I mean, you have to really want to buy into the Barela hype to the max to think that he's going to keep playing like this for the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
And he might. But you should also look at the long run averages, I think. And at some point he's going to slump. And the question will be, how does he handle the slump? Because some guys handle it great.
Yep.
Macbeth handles it great. Other guys don't.
Well, and the big question I have, we haven't seen Anthony Barela like truly out of contention yet, because Calvin last season would be out of contention, and then he would shoot amazing rounds, and that would get him back up into a pretty high finish. So the question mark to me is like when Anthony Barela is just clear out of it, what are his rounds going to be like, and if he wants to keep that kind of streak going.
Wow, Mike B is bullish. He says he'd take even odds that Barela doesn't have a slump this year, barring injury. Guess it depends how we define slump,
Yeah.
but I would take that bet if we want to define terms. It's like any sport. Sometimes you have it and sometimes you don't. Right now he obviously has it, but the putting isn't always there, even for the greats. So,
Charlie, speaking of the greats, Owl P. Jackson had a comment that you wanted to hit.
Yes, thank you.
Before we moved on. Yeah.
This is unbelievable. This is unbelievable. I love it. It's a simple fact, but it's hard to believe. I'm just quoting Owl directly. Think about 2 to 3 years ago, hearing that 5 events into the 2024 season, there would be 0 wins for Paul Macbeth, Ricky Wysocki, Calvin Heimberg, Eagle McMahon, Chris Dickerson, and Simon Lizotte. It's unfathomable.
Yeah. Yep. It really is.
What a crazy run from this guy right now. Let's turn our attention back to the rest of the MPO field, and we will get to FPO in just a moment. Another good tournament for Ezra. I mean, it's easy to focus on his mistakes because he does seem to kind of make those mistakes when it seems like when the shot matters the most, he like can't make the putt.
You mean
I really get that feeling.
Or the forehand on hole 14.
Yeah, just like these moments where it's like he knows that if he executes, he's going to take the lead, or that he knows it's a big shot. He's not executing in those moments. And look, this is really tough, difficult, like sports psychology stuff, and players have to go through this. But I will say, I've been very impressed with Ezra's play. I think that he might win a tournament despite those issues because of how well he's throwing the disc, what a great putter he is from the edge of the circle, and just generally putting himself in contention a lot more.
Yeah. You ready for this, Charlie? Would you believe me if I told you that Ezra Aderhold didn't miss a C1X putt this weekend?
He went perfect in C1.
20 for 20. That's
fantastic.
Never would have guessed it.
No, that's true. I wouldn't have either.
So yeah,
but
that's the highlight that I completely agree with you.
It's I mean, if it becomes now that he like can't make the circle 2 putts, like that's improvement for sure.
Yep. Real quick. Someone pointed out, Reed, that we don't have his. I was kind of surprised that he had such low C1X numbers, but just kind of assumed that, he was either in bullseye or not, or in circle 2 in regulation more. Looks like Ezra Aderhold does not have stats for round 1, as like half the field doesn't. It kind of looks like.
This is a mess.
And we still don't have season stats. The tour's got to
figure this out. It's getting bad.
Yeah.
It's the middle of April.
Yeah, that's
like it has been. We're like 2 months into the season. We don't have season stats, and we have like many cards, including I think of FPO 3rd card went out this weekend without a statistician.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, obviously, it speaks to bigger problems for the general, like the fandom is down, right? Like, look at these tournaments. There weren't very many people out there this weekend spectating, and clearly they must be having problems getting volunteers to come out, and that's why this is happening. But it almost like they have to figure out how to make it happen, because not having stats for this sport, even the rudimentary ones that we have, is a complete embarrassment for the tour and the PDGA. It's a disaster. Like you can't make like you go on the broadcast and you like pull up some statistic about their weekend and it's literally just lies because we don't have their round one stats for a guy who finished almost won the tournament. It's a disaster. It's honestly a disaster. I've been I would say I've been very relaxed about this issue overall in terms of like the stat transition and everything, but it was really bad this weekend.
I'm looking at other numbers. Like Gavin Babcock is missing round 2, and then has 3 of holes of round 3, and then it drops off. It's just really like it's pretty bad. It's
not good.
Not good. It does not look good.
It's not good. No, it's not good. And like I think this extends even down to the people at the bottom of the tournament. Like obviously, if you have no choice, you have to prioritize higher cards. I understand that, but you know they shouldn't be sending cards out without stats. Like there's a lot of like if you look at round 3, there's a lot of MPO cards that didn't have stats.
Well,
in the below the cash line.
Let me put it for you this way, Charlie. Gavin Rathbun finished 27th and has no stats recorded for the weekend.
No way.
Not a 1.
Are you serious?
Yeah, he's the highest player. I just started scrolling until I found the first player. Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, look, I think I kind of empathize with the problem, right? Like that they're struggling to manage like getting enough people to these events to make this happen. But, you know, we had a week off. It's not like we're in Texas again. And to like it's not like the one card went out without stats. This and the other thing is this didn't happen almost ever in the UDisc era. It was quite rare. It was quite rare. And so I think it's like there needs to be some work done to figure out this issue because you know, to me, having these rich stats is an important piece. I'm not going to name them because I don't want to call them out, but a pro after our show last week texted me and was like, "Hey, where did you get the season stats?" Because they wanted to see their own season stats.
No way. Are you serious?
I'm serious.
Oh my gosh.
Instead of a cash line, there's a stat line. That one comes from Tyler.
Oh,
I'm sorry, you're below the stat line. You're gonna have to do your own scorecard today.
Oh man.
Okay, I'm sorry to harp on that one, but I had to get it off my chest. It was making me so mad this weekend. Let's see what else we got going on here. Should we talk about Kristen?
Let's talk about Kristen.
The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. I mentioned last week, Sexathorpe Earth, Nate Sexton's signature bag, available. The party edition is now available as well. So head over to pounddiscgolf.com to check that out. And you can get a ton of new Octagoat stamped Innova discs. You know what? They have pretty much everything you could be looking for. You want a Toro, you want a Rolo, Polecat, Destroyer, bunch of Halo discs. They got a bunch of different stuff. So go over and check out what they've got and grab yourself a Pound Disc Golf disc to go in your Pound bag today. The Upshot is presented by Sunset Lake CBD, a farm that originally started as a dairy farm producing milk and cream for Ben & Jerry's ice cream, but they've since diversified and started growing hemp for CBD. You got to check their products out. This is the highest quality CBD, really super nice packaging, obviously really nice quality products themselves. I've been using the like muscle rub when I have sore muscles. Feels fantastic, smells great. Really, really nice to be able to use that instead of, taking Tylenol or something like that. and you can save on Sunset Lake CBD products right now. You just got to go to sunsetlakecbd.com, use coupon code Upshot, and you will save 20% off your entire order. And hey, heads up, 420 sale, it's coming soon. Stay tuned.
I have some stats for Kristen that they're gonna blow your mind. They're crazier. They're crazier than the Anthony Barela stats.
Wow. All right. Kristen was basically in cruise control today, as the players who were in contention to try to beat her offered no resistance whatsoever to her lead. And she just walked it in. Total sleepwalk. I didn't watch, I'll be honest with you. I never turned it on because I just knew it was a wrap. But I mean, Kristen was just, she did exactly what I thought she would do, which is come out and just smash this weekend.
Yep.
I mean, her round one, Josh, she shot a 10 under, and the second best round on the course was a 4 down. It was 1044 rated. And she had a bogey.
And that was a wrap. That's everyone go home.
And it was basically over. I mean, people were like, it's over. And I was like, you know what? I basically agree. I thought there was a hope for Evelina. I almost had a perfect podium, Josh. I was so close.
You were close. You, for reference for everybody, you had the correct players. You just had Evelina beating Holland on the podium.
But look, I mean, Kristen re-announced herself as very obviously the best player on the planet. And look, I don't think we should be surprised by this. This was a very complete performance from Kristen. She led the tournament in Circle 1 in regulation. And she led in Circle 2 in regulation. She led in park percentage. She led in fairway hits. She obviously led in tee to green. But you know what? She also led in strokes gained putting, just to put a cap on the whole thing, where she went 73-24 for 5.28 strokes gained. She only went out of bounds twice. She basically was just like, guess what? I'm going to do this better than all of you in every category. Thank you.
And everyone else in the field said, "You're welcome." It was a clinical performance. She shoots a 1016 event rating. This is now outside of U.S. Women's. She has shot 1,000 or better rated at every tournament, except for that one blemish. So just playing great. Now, Charlie, I wanted to find something that was interesting, and I was digging through Kristen's Statmando page. Are you ready for what I think might be the craziest statistic I've heard in disc golf in a very, very, very long time? Maybe ever. I'm going to say it, ever.
I don't know if I'm ready.
I don't know if you are. I really don't think you are.
Hit me with it.
Since 2017, if you take every major, Pro Tour, and National Tour event that Kristen has played. Now, I excluded European Pro Tour events, and I excluded silvers. Kristen, average finish, 2.6, with a worst finish of 8th place. Kristen,
is that true? She's never
according to Statmando, I filtered it. I literally just put DGPT, like elite, like I just filtered it by event. So since 2017, she has not missed the top 10.
Yeah, that's crazy. I just double checked your work and it's accurate.
I'm glad you did, because
by the way, when you say since 2017, that's literally when she started touring. You're not just like carving something out for no reason.
If you filter it,
that's like literally when hers.
That's
the first time she played in a major.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Yep.
Damn.
Kristen. When Kristen is done doing Kristen, I'm very excited to go back and do this again and look at her career statistics, these previous seasons. I mean, this is the weekend that Kristen reminds everybody that she is the player who has not missed the top 10 since 2017 with a worst finish of 2.6, or the average finish of 2.6.
Now, she's up to 19 career wins at Elite Series and majors. Like, that's starting to get into like rarefied territory. Like, and we've talked about this before, like, for her to pass Paige in the GOAT conversation, what's he going to take? And it's like, last year I was like, yeah, you got to pump the brakes. Like, Paige is an incredible number of major wins. Her streak may never be broken.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, like, if Kristen keeps playing like this and people don't pass her, in the next year or two, it's going to become an inevitability that we talk about her that way.
Yeah. And I think what's so impressive is, you see Kristen again this weekend, and it is just the completeness of her game. It is the ability to, like, you don't look at her and you don't say, oh yes, she throws the furthest or she putts the best. It is the fact that she does everything from top to bottom just so flawlessly. And other players are going to have to get to that level. And Charlie, it really makes me think, the comparison that I think of is when you watch the Masters or professional golf, and I'm this is on my mind because Masters this weekend. Speaking of, I really enjoyed it, but as soon as Max Homa took the double bogey on hole 12, that's just when I turned it off. I don't know if you were watching.
You were out.
Yeah,
I didn't really watch much today.
Yeah.
I was following the leaderboard a lot.
Okay.
I watched a lot this weekend, but I was pretty busy today.
Okay. Yeah, Homa took the double bogey on 12, and I was like, all right, I'm out. But the point is, like, the Kristen, when you watch PGA Tour, it's they play to a level that even their mistakes, and I saw a clip, Scheffler, I don't think it was this weekend, but he hit a ball and just like yells profanities because he shanked it and it hit the green. It just hit the far side of the green. And, and I was like, wow, you really shanked that one, right? And that's how it feels to Kristen, right? Kristen, when she shanks it, is edge of the fairway. And other players are going to have to get to that level where the mistakes become just so much smaller before they're going to really have the chance that every single week it's not going to be like, oh, well, Kristen was second, even if she didn't win. But when she does win and puts everything together, just nobody can touch her.
10-16 rated this weekend. That's her best tournament of the season. She's been heating up a little bit too. I mean, she goes 1,000 rated at Texas State's where she finishes second. Then she goes 10-07 at Persimmon Ridge, 10-16 this weekend. And as was pointed out by Pilcher in the chat, Kristen 1,000 watch is back on. Definitely. I think with two well over 1,000 rated tournaments to start April, I would call her a favorite to make it in the May update at this point. I think she's got a great chance to do it, and she's going to play Music City, which is not a challenging course for her. I think she can shred again.
I agree with that. I really think that Music City, that's she's fortunate that she's got Music City in this update. For reference, last year she shot 10-18, 945, and 10-12. Definitely not going to want that 945 stuck in the middle there.
Yeah, that was a stinker.
Not good. But my big question for you, Charlie, if you look at her upcoming events and double check the schedule, she is going to have to play Champions Cup in this before this update. Do you think 4 rounds at Northwood Black is going to hurt her chances in the quest for 1,000?
Well, I don't know. How was she shot there last time?
She doesn't play Idol, or she doesn't play Ledgestone, remember?
She never plays Ledgestone.
She
played it in 2022.
Okay.
Let's take a look. I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
Sunset Hills. They only played one. Oh, they played 1 and 4 on Northwood. Okay, so her round ratings on Northwood in 2022 were 1,003 and 975. She shot a 63 in round 1. It was a hot round on the course. But there weren't a ton of 1,000 rated rounds shot that weekend, although I would say the overall level of play is so much higher. I think she could totally do it. Okay, well, people are talking about nicknames. It's time. Maybe we're
getting the up. We're getting.
Kristen doesn't have a great nickname. David Garlick. If this sticks, you're going to get the credit. Okay, we're going to remember this moment, and I'm going to adjust it slightly because David says 1K Tattar. But I would just say 1KT.
I like
I don't
that.
think that's going to stick necessarily, but it's definitely, you could put it on a disc or something like that. That's Kristen with 1K. Oh, I like that from Jogan. Now that's more of like a slogan.
Uh-huh.
You could put that on a t-shirt. But 1KT, like maybe. Keep workshopping, says Mike. Pilcher likes it. I think Kristen doesn't really have a great nickname right now. I think she gets the respect of being called by her first name a lot on the broadcast, and not everybody gets that. 1KT. People seem to like it. That people would buy that disc.
People
100%.
would buy that disc. The hard part is like, I don't know if like she hits a big putt on 18. I don't know. 1KT, maybe. Because I'm thinking like we hit like when Missy hits a big putt, like Big Money Missy gets another win. 1KT gets another win. I think it could stick.
All right. Well, we're trying to do it here again on the Upshot. So we've already got KJ USA and Big Money Missy.
Yep.
Those are both coined from the Upshot. Do not let others twist these facts. And now maybe it will be 1KT. But she's got to get there first.
She does.
She's got to get there first. We're not there yet. Moonrock says the Challenger Committee is in Tatars. I like it. What about Barela nickname? I've been thinking about that too.
I don't know. There aren't many players. I'm thinking AB, like it just sounds good. Everybody
it
knows
does sound
him.
good.
His logo is good. I know you like this one. This logo. So yeah, I think AB
his logo, yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna like I'm gonna just preview, like I'm gonna at some point on the broadcast, if it comes up and there's like a moment for it, I'm gonna do something like AB, see you later, or something like that. When he does something awesome, I don't know. There's something there.
Keep workshopping that,
yeah,
Charlie.
Yeah, I'm pulling my Michael K impressions. See ya.
Oh,
please don't.
Charlie, there in the Discord debate thread, there was a question that I thought was a really, really good question, because I've thought this to myself before as well. It was asked what makes Jonesboro excellent, right? And why doesn't it kind of fall by the wayside like some other tournaments or courses like Emporia Country Club? And there was a kind of a progression of the answers. And I want to give credit to all three, because I think all three kind of get me and get to where I think is really important. Moonrocks.
I'll just say go ahead. My quick take is that elevation change is a big part of it, but continue.
Hey, Charlie, guess what? That was Moonrock's answer.
Sorry, Moonrocks.
So Moonrock says it's elevation. Matt's 10 talks about landing zones, and then Parked Pro Matt puts says just talks about like the difference between golf fairways and disc golf fairways. And again, I think this comes by virtue of me watching the Masters this weekend. When you think about the way that you have to play a fairway in traditional golf, slope and elevation can affect the ball, and minimal amounts of that elevation change can affect the ball significantly more than disc golf, right? If the left side of the fairway in golf is even just a very, very slight grade, when you hit it, you're going to be rolling down into what is perhaps a worse lie, worse cut, etc. In disc golf, that isn't often the case, but we saw cases this weekend where the use of elevation changed the way that like the discs interacted with different landing zones, and 10 feet of difference made a huge difference in multiple shots. Examples. I think of on hole 17, Ben Calloway. If he hits the ground 10 feet closer, he does this nice little checkup and probably stays in bounds that completely changes the way that the tournament plays out. Instead, because he hit closer to the basket, it skips out. When you look at Calvin on hole 7, on his OB shot, he throws the approach that's just the really excellent turnover shot. And Nate Sexton points out he uses the crest of that hill to do a speed check into the basket where he's almost just outside bullseye. Whereas if he sails it over the crest of that hill, then he is significantly further, probably putting uphill from circle 2. This course utilizes elevation and the fairway shapes in a way that I think is unique and does the best job of mimicking some of the strategy that we have to see out of like golf courses, and I think adds a level of intrigue that on face you necessarily wouldn't see out of Jonesboro. So big thanks to all the guys that I mentioned and shouted out in the Discord, because I think this is an excellent discussion and one of the things that really does make Jonesboro great.
Did you like the changes to the course? From a we obviously we talked to the TD about why they made the changes because they wanted to make the spectator experience a better bit. But did you like the flow the way that it was now?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I still would prefer par 4s on hole 18, but it was close. Emily's right that like I think there were some cases on FPO that definitely could have been better. And man, unfortunately, it feels like FPO, whenever there's a new course or new changes, it never gets tested properly for FPO or to its fullest extent. But all in all, I did not mind the flow. I didn't mind it at all. I thought it was good. I like hole 1 still. I like the big downhill shot. I liked hole 17 and 18. I really liked hole 17 actually. I thought it was very interesting. So,
yeah, my 18 skepticism was misplaced. It was an excellent finishing hole.
Yeah. So, all in all, I was very pleased with the flow.
Hole 2 FPO didn't get birdied.
Yeah, bad luck.
Not once. It's terrible.
Bad luck.
Terrible. It's just a bad hole. I mean, there's just no way around it. I mean, that's just a classic example of like designed by someone with more arm speed or thinking about like men's arm speed and just not doing enough due diligence. It's not like it's that hard to ask like somebody who's 925 rated to come play the hole and give you feedback on it. So I don't know. An unnecessary blunder. And I will say, to the credit of the tour and to all of the local course designers and people who are involved in these events, this is becoming a more rare topic. And we've largely had excellent courses for FPO this season. And so when we had a course that was not the best, and particularly a hole that was especially bad, I mean, a couple of years ago, there were lots of holes that didn't get birdied.
Yeah.
Lots. And so could be a lot better. There was a lot of holes without a lot of scoring separation too.
Mm-hmm.
If you kind of like look across the whole thing, like, you know, holes where it's like 65% par and only like a couple of birdies. So, you know, there's room for improvement for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Mike pointed this out. And Nate Sexton brought this up on the broadcast. So I mentioned it in the chat earlier, and I want to mention it here, Josh, and get your thoughts on it.
Okay.
Calvin had 2 vicious rollaways on basically perfect approach shots that hit the metal advertising signs that go around the basket on the elevated baskets, and then it like kicked his disc down the hill, and he was out of position for what should have been a tap-in birdie. And Nate Sexton basically made the point on the air that he's like, I know the tour needs to make money, and that's good and important, but like, could we maybe rethink having these metal signs that kick discs super hard away from the basket? And I have to say, I think he's completely right. There's just no reason for this. And what do you think, Josh?
I completely agree. The metal was just such a terrible choice change there. And I was actually really pleased. I thought there were a couple cases, especially with the wind, where players had to make some really difficult decisions about running putts that would otherwise be routine, because the combination of the elevation / slope on the green as well as the wind made it really, you know, kind of questionable about what that disc was going to do when you were putting. It made difficult choices. It made for difficult choices, and I'm here for that. However, that advertisement was terrible, and the choice to use the metal posies was
It's a horrible sound.
it's a horrible sound. Nobody likes
when the disc hits those. That's the worst sound in disc
nobody
golf.
likes when you hit the top band of that. Why would they like the bottom better? And
let's really band it up. You know what? Let's just everyone loves the band. So let's make the band gigantic and wide and put it all around the entire thing.
Yeah. That was oh my gosh. So that was bad. I'm trying to think like
yeah, I mean obviously it's like kind of fluky bad luck for him to take those kicks the way that it happened, but I just think that they should have a it's too like the pole is one thing.
Sure.
But the pole doesn't typically cause those kinds of gigantic bounces, first of all. And obviously, it's also necessary. You have to have something to hold the basket up. But to make it so big, like I just feel like there's other ways to integrate the advertising in a way that doesn't affect the competition as much as those seem to be affecting it.
And maybe we're okay with like maybe you're okay with the fact that it's a little bit wider and is going to get hit, but then make it soft so that if you base it, it'll guarantee.
Yeah,
soft.
it's like right.
Yeah,
right. You like get a benefit from putting it that close.
Yeah. Make it because even like the normal ones they use still have a little bit of like enough to it that I've seen rollaways, but not as many. That's for sure. But yeah, make something take out of I don't know, like I think of like gym mat material kind of thing. Couple layers of those, like yeah, give them a reward if they hit that.
Yeah, this is not something that I'm gonna like go to die about. Like I get why they have them. I don't think it's some kind of disaster that they have that, but it does feel like it's looks nice but is bad for competition, and you don't want to create that, right? If you need to insert the advertising, do it, and there's plenty of creative ways to do it. It doesn't require you to affect the actual competition on the course. All right. Well, let's take some rapid questions from the chat here. Great to have everybody with us as always. An awesome chat tonight. Who coined Vinny Buckets, says Kyle. He asks if it's Philo. I mean, I certainly associate the term with Philo, but I don't know who actually coined that one. The Upshot cannot take credit.
Yeah, I don't think so. And I think, didn't Vinny Buckets come from this event when he did the basketball toss last season?
That's possible.
I know it became very popular after, like at that point.
Amp Style wants to know how bad you think Isaac and Gannon choked today.
Gannon, I don't think Gannon choked that bad. I mean, he had spit outs, probably could have cleaned it up. Isaac shooting even though I mean, that's ice cold. That's a whole, I mean, that he just didn't show up. He didn't show up. And it's hard to say that like he choked because, he's tied with the lead. It would have been one thing if he shot even when he had a 4-stroke lead and blew it. So I don't even know if I call it choking, but yeah, no, like guy went ice going into that final round.
Yeah, this is a weird one. I have to say, I think more than me focusing on the fact that he didn't play well today, I'm encouraged by the fact that he was in contention to win the tournament by the start of the final round.
Yeah.
Because that has not been a thing this season. So to me, this is progress. Well, someone just asked one. Still think Gannon doesn't have putting issues. Well, no, I mean, I'm seeing there's some, he doesn't look dialed.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. He doesn't look dialed. This weekend, he was 83-30. For him, that's bad. He should be up at like high 80s, low 90s, and close to 40% from C2 for him to be like kind of operating at his level. So a little off. I mean, obviously he had some frustrations with the baskets, and somebody pointed out that he like very audibly said these baskets suck during the broadcast. But he was also like missing, right? Mm-hmm. He was wide left, he was wide right, he was high. Like he's not locked in, that's for sure.
You think it's a putter issue?
That's going to be a really good question.
Listen, here's what I'll say. PA threes.
It doesn't seem like. Yeah, go ahead.
PA threes are. So I used to putt with links, which is what he putts with now. And when you think of like PA threes are significantly more stable, and Prodigy pros talk all the time about how little glide they have, and that just isn't like what I think of when I think of links. It really feels like he's putting with a whole different putter. I mean, and not I of course he's playing with a different putter, but one that doesn't feel super comparable to what he used to putt with. So I wonder how much of it really is just he's going to take reps with a putter to fix it. Because even before he was like truly sponsored by Prodigy, he always said Will Schustrick was his favorite player. So I think he's been putting with the PA3s before this for years and years and years. And that's going to take time.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen him have some good moments too. So it's just been a little up and down, I guess I would say. Obviously, he's so good that a shaky weekend for him is 83-30, which is better than most pros. Okay, let's see. I wanted to bring up, somebody pointed out that Barela has now had to go head to head and beat Ricky Wysocki at chess.com, and then Gannon Burr, and to an extent Ezra at Texas State's, and now Calvin Heimberg for his wins this season. I mean, these aren't cheapies.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, I don't remember who made that comment, so you can repost and I will give you credit. Those were not cheapies.
No, they weren't.
He's had to beat the best.
Yeah. Yeah, he absolutely has.
Often playing their best.
Right. And we talked about this before, but deserves even more credit again now. And he's done it in a million different ways. He's gone cold and come from behind. He's been in the lead. He's had to. It's been a variety of the ways that he's won, and that
he hasn't just been a front runner,
correct, or only chase card champ, right? Like
right,
yeah.
Ampstyle wants to know who I think the top 3 MPOs are so far in 2024. Well, it's obviously AB at number 1.
Yep.
And Gannon at number 2. I think the third spot is like less clear. Through 5 tournaments, Ampstyle's answer is Calvin. I'm tempted to say, I don't know why I want to say Nicholas, just because he won and it was a great story. Is it the best answer?
I think it's. I mean,
Kyle's the next player in the standings, but it feels to me like Nicholas has had a little bit of a better season so far, even though he's admittedly just had terrible finishes in his last 2 tournaments.
That's
yeah. I wouldn't blame you for saying Kyle, Nicholas, or Calvin.
Yeah.
Or honestly, even Matty O, if you're just looking for somebody who's been like pretty consistently sitting inside that top 15.
But if your answer is Matty O, then your answer has to be Kyle, because
that's right.
Kyle's just been a better Matty O.
You're completely right.
So yeah, like I don't think Matty O is an acceptable answer. I really think it has to be those 3 guys that you mentioned.
Yeah, I think for whatever reason people want to forget about Kyle, but he 5th, 7th, 2nd, 10th. And then 27th this weekend.
How much has he been on lead card like coverage?
That's part of the issue.
That's the big issue, right? So and
I think it's a big part of it.
Calvin missing Waco, I think, belies the strength of his other tournaments.
Right. He's now got 3 straight top 5s.
Yeah, he would have needed 50 points at Waco to be ahead of Kyle, which would have been a top 10 finish. So if you think Vinny finishes inside the top 10 at Waco, I think that's a completely fine answer for 3rd.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 2 players who've finished in the top 5 3 times in a row. The first is obviously AB. The second is Calvin.
Yeah.
So, what else you see, Josh?
Emily asks, what happens with Holland? Why does she not play so well sometimes?
Yeah, she I mean, it's not like she was going to catch Kristen today. It wasn't going to happen, but she did not birdie in the front 9. She was +3. with 5 missed circle 1 putts and 0 for 3 from circle 2. I don't know. Holland is like the most streaky player alive, and that's coming off of a round 2. So she shoots 1 under today. It's coming off of a round 2 where she shot a 10-26 rated 10 down. I cannot explain to you what's going on. By the way, she birdied 4 through 10 in round 2, and then got 0 birdies in the front 9 in round 3. It's honestly inexplicable.
Holland,
to me, it's like it's pure mental stuff.
it has to be. I mean, her arm just like disassociates from the rest of her body when she plays poorly. It just seriously, and I say that because similar to like sometimes you see players throw and like it's like a little bit off, but you could see how it happens. Like Holland throws shots sometimes when she's just in a funk that it comes out of her hand, and you're like, how did that disc go that direction? Like it doesn't physically make sense how you just did that. It goes so bad. I mean, she's one that's got a really, really high ceiling, but a very, very low.
Her floor is in the basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. I think that's going to do it. Great to have everybody with us. Hopefully, if you were listening to us on the Tuesday show, you see how much fun we have in our reacts and you want to join us because we're going to do it again this weekend. And I will be in Nashville. So hit me up, charlie@ultiworld.com. If you're in Nashville and you want to go downtown or something. No, I don't know if I would go downtown, but I might get a drink or something. And I'm looking forward to being on the call once again with Brian Earhart and Juliana Korver for the Music City Open. That is going to do it for this edition of the Upshot and the Rapid Reacts. Thank you so much for being a subscriber and being here with us. And we will talk to you on Thursday before the Music City Open. Talk to you then.